Hey folks, in today's video I want to run you through a whole bunch of new equipment I've gotten in for the workshops that we run all around the world. Running the workshops is a whole lot of fun. You need a whole lot of equipment once you have a dozen or 15 photographers, and it's just a reality. Over time things wear out and things get broken. So it was time to refresh the kit. Steph and I are off to London in a few weeks' time. So I wanted to have a complete overhaul of the equipment I'm using to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. Now, I'm sure you've been on the other side of the camera so much that you see sometimes we struggle with our equipment.
Yep.
And for me as a teacher, it's so important that the gear we're using is rock solid and bulletproof, because if someone's trying to get a lighting ratio concept and you're standing there patiently modeling and doing your thing, and they're not getting repeatable results, I want them to be certain that it's not the gear, that they've just missed a step in the process or something. So getting equipment that just does the job is what's important to me. So yes, the title is true. This is the biggest investment I'll be making for the year. It's about $10,000 worth of equipment, but individual pieces aren't that expensive. And it's not about being fancy. It's just about having gear that really works. So I'm gonna run through and show you what I got and why, and explain how we use it. And you know, it's in the process, I guess we're kind of gonna tell you a bit how the workshops work. So if you wanna check out any of them, head to mattgranger.com/workshops. We've got 2 in London, and then we've done them together in Chicago, a few in New York, LA.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that in the next year or so we can take them on the road more and maybe go to Singapore and maybe some more places in Europe. We'll see. But so, first of all, the flashes. Now, I have, I always start the workshops these days with the disclaimer that please be careful with the gear, but I understand things happen, accidents happen. And every workshop I've ever run, something gets smashed. It's not because people are being careless. I'm the same. You get so focused on what you're doing, you turn, you bump a light stand, something breaks.
I've broken a flash before.
I think it was 2 in 2 days even. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, it was. Oh my God.
So that happens, but so I have a graveyard of flashes from the past 10 years or so. I mean, I've taught dozens of workshops to hundreds of students in loads of different countries, so stuff wears out, stuff breaks. I have gotten in the end, 4 different kinds of flashes we're going to be using, which might sound like it's adding complexity, but actually they're all within one family. So, first of all, we have, we'll open these up to show you a bit more detail. These 3, and then one bigger one that we'll get to. So first off, these are all in the Nissin family. Most of them, except for the most basic one, all work with their triggers. Now, actually, my workshops, I tend to teach everything in manual, because for the reason that we have all of this great pristine gear for the workshops, but when you go home, you may not. And I don't want people to have to go out and buy $1,000 worth of gear for themselves. So to be able to pick up any flash or any trigger or any modifier and know how to use it, the best way is to learn shooting in full manual. It's like, I don't know how you learnt, but back in the dark ages when I learned to drive a car, it was with a
dark ages.
manual transmission, or stick shift as they call it in the States, car, where everything was manual, you know. So I learned to tune carburetors and do all of that stuff. So now, if I need to drive those kind of cars, I still can. But it's still easy to step in and use something that has full auto settings and take advantage of it. But you need to start with the basic if you want to master the whole range.
Yeah, so we'll have candles and like lighters and just like put it up next to faces.
You probably will do that as well, but thank you, Steph. No. So let's open these first. So first of all, when we have the workshops, we have students using all different brands of equipment. So I always want to support that. When I'm using my manual triggers, which is the majority of the weekend, that all supports any brand, no problem. For these ones, because they have the option to use their own dedicated commander, which works across the system. Now, of course, I got the commanders in all of the different variations, so people, if they want to go to them and use more advanced stuff later in the workshop, they can do that as well. So let's go through these. Are you okay?
It's so cute.
So you'll see these
It's like,
two.
oh, it's too small.
But look at
It's
this
too
one, the
big,
body
it's
is-
just right.
But that's the one you liked. See, look, it's just a much bigger head. So the first one is the littlest one, your favorite one. That's the i400. I'll show you guys a little close-up on it. Despite being so tiny, it still has a guide number of 40. It's got a 16 to 105 zoom range. It'll stop down to 256 power, which is great. More options is great. And that one's essentially for the workshop's going to be an on-camera option. Now, we're teaching light. It's not about has to be on, has to be off, has to be this brand or that. It's about that light is light and how to get the results you want. So sometimes having a camera on flash to add a pop of light or to trigger other flashes is really handy. So that's
really
what we've
light
got this
and
one.
small.
Yes,
I
so
like
that's, you know, it's meant for smaller mirrorless cameras to put on camera, but all of these ones still run off 4 AA batteries. So for me, it's great to have, you know, I take hundreds of batteries. We're going to get to that in a second. So to have them all using the same batteries is really important for me. The next one up is the 60A. You'll see the body itself is not too much bigger, but the head is significantly bigger because this one actually has a guide number of 60, and it'll also do third of stops down to 1/256 of power. And the zoom coverage on this one is 16 all the way to 200. That's something that, like, the top of the line from other brands go to 200. This has it in such a small one. Please don't break things before we even use them.
Maybe I shouldn't touch anything.
But this one does work with the air system, does have a trigger so we can use it as a slave, like a built-in slave option. So that one's great. This is one that I've actually been using for years, and now I think I have 12 or 15 of them for the workshop. So this is going to be the primary one. These ones we just have a few extras as needed. This is the big boy that we'll be using through the workshop. You can feel it's a lot, it's really nice build quality. You know, when flashes are on top of a light stand and there's a lot of pivot and stuff going on, it's generally the foot is the first thing that's going to break. So depending on which one of these you get, they will have a metal foot or a plastic one. Mostly they're metal, but if you're getting one that's for some of the mirrorless cameras that take a different kind of connection, then they are or aren't. But this guy it's obviously bigger, more powerful, and more options. And I love that on the side of this one, it's got both the 3.5 and the PC sync. That's really handy for workshops because the pocket wizards I use, you could use either cable. So not having to scramble around to get one or the other, you can use either one of them, which is nice. Now we have
Flashes.
the big boy.
Whoa.
And you'll note the initials.
Oh,
Yeah.
MG.
I like to think they named this one after me.
Ooh,
Yeah, right.
pretty.
Now you might have seen this kind of a flash back in the day as the kind of thing that people had on an L bracket off to the side of their camera for like 50s press photography, that kind of thing. This is similar, but it's got the built-in receiver, so you can pop their little, let's grab the commander out of there. Dankeschön. So this is the Air 10. So it comes with the cables if you do want to do it old school. Dankeschön again. But otherwise, you can set it up, use it wirelessly, use it in TTL and high-speed sync and all of that, or use it in full manual. But then if you're, which is a situation that might sound really exotic, but one that I'm often in, shooting some people in an amazing outdoor location on tour in Bhutan or in Kenya or wherever, and you're fighting the bright midday sun and you want to overpower it, and you're not setting up all kinds of off-camera flash and light stands and umbrellas that you would if you had more time, to be able to adjust exactly where you want this and have them communicating wirelessly, or to stick it in the fork of a tree and zoom it into the distance you need, is great. And you'll notice this one, it's extra power because it's actually got a double head. It's got 2 tubes in there, and then it's made using materials that are for dissipating heat. It's also got a micro SD slot for updating the firmware. This one uses 8 AA batteries, or you can use 2 of those super jumbo rechargeable high capacity batteries. Also does 18 to 200 mil on the zoom. And I mean, this is crazy powerful. Guide numbers can be confusing because they're measured at a specific zoom and whatnot, but comparing it to studio strobes, this has 165 watt seconds. So for in the field, you're going to get a whole lot of power out of this, and the students actually do. It's crazy. On the weekends, once we've gone through the fundamentals and people have got their head around it, and the idea of using a flash may have been daunting, by the Sunday afternoon, it's always so cool to see. They come in with these concepts of shots that they 2 days ago had no idea how to execute, take out 2 models and 12 lights and a bunch of different modifiers and create these epic scenes, and having really high power flashes really helps. So I've only got, I think, 3 or 4 of those for the workshop, but on top of the dozen or so of the 700s. So that's going to make a nice addition. Now, that's, I guess, essentially the lighting portion of it, but there's a couple more elements that are critical to how I run the workshop. So let me show you those. So, one critical thing, I'm a huge fan of pocket wizards, but because I'm teaching the workshops in that old school way, you absolutely can use these modern triggers and have the flashes all communicate directly. But because I want to teach the workshops that people can go and start, at least, with any bargain basement trigger they find that's full manual, these are that, but they're just rock solid, NASA certified,
durable,
reliable, and none of these have ever broken. Throw it off a rooftop.
Don't do that.
They've fallen stories,
Yes.
easy, and they're 100%. They fire every single time, and that's what I need for the workshop. So people can learn on these, get repeatable results, know what they're doing, and then if they want to go and get TTL options, cool. If they want to start out with $10, I call them poverty wizards, that's also cool. But at the workshop, rock solid. And then because AA batteries, everything's AA batteries, surprise, surprise, we have a hell of a lot of AA batteries, hundreds of them. For years, I've been using the Maha Energy PowerX batteries. Just got the new charger and actually gave one of these away on the channel recently. And literally hundreds of these batteries. I take 2 or 3 chargers along. They can do 8 super high capacity batteries in an hour. So at the end of the workshop, it's super glamorous. Steph and my wife Kate and I will be sitting there watching the chargers, changing them in, changing them out to make sure, because they're all individual cells, so one can finish whilst the other 7 are charging. Okay, this one's good, into that bag.
If we made a
New dead
video,
one.
it would be very boring.
Sped up, it could be funny, but
I mean, I guess so, but it's just us sitting and watching.
and trying to recuperate for the next day. But yes, so that's the electronic-y part of the process done. But there's more to it. So let's say for London, we're going to have about 15 photographers, half a dozen models, myself, loads of flashes and modifiers. It means loads of everything. Everything scales up. If you're going to have 12 of the 700s, that means you need most likely at least 12 different modifiers and at least 12 different light stands. And that's where the weight really comes in. Going from 10 to 12 flashes doesn't add a whole lot of weight to the luggage you're trying to check in. But then an extra 2 light stands, an extra 2 this, that, and the other really does. So
yeah, we all lug them in too.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Put them in all of our bags.
So this is your traditional light stand. It doesn't pack down that small. It's kind of a bit janky. It's kind of not that light either. And the legs just fan out, and no good for uneven surfaces because you can't adjust the length of the legs.
They fall a lot during like any shoots around staircases.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Well, falling in staircases, yes, because of the surfaces, but if you want, that's the trade-off. So the new ones I've got are carbon fiber. They're not just looking like carbon fiber, they're actual carbon fiber, and they've got an adjustable leg height, so then you can put that at a different angle. Now, it is a trade-off though. So these are literally half the weight of the other ones that I used to use, And when I'm taking 12 or 15 of them, that means I'm saving 6 or 7 kilograms of weight. For me and my luggage allowance and my back, that's a great thing. But it does still mean that if you're going to, because these still go up to like 6 or 7 foot or something, if you're going to put an umbrella outdoors, they're going to blow over more easily than a much heavier one. It's the same as a lightweight travel tripod is great, but it's not going to be as rock solid as, you know, an old-fashioned 10-pound wooden one. So that's the trade-off. So when you're outdoors, you need to take care and position them properly or put a sandbag on them. But for indoors or, you know, situations where it's not windy, so great. And again, carrying 12, actually I will be carrying 15 of these to London. Well, I'll probably have 5 in my bag, 5 in Kate's and 5 in yours.
Okay.
It adds up.
And it's pretty. I like the blue.
Now, umbrellas are something that also break easily that I actually don't put a whole lot of budget into, because if I take 10 to a workshop, 2 are probably going to end up bent and 1 might end up totally broken. And the difference in quality, there is definitely a difference between the cheapest one you find and the $100 one that you find from a brand name company, but it's not 10 or 20 times better quality. You're not going to get 10 or 20 times better life out of it. So I go for quality ones that are still at a good price. And the reality is, where light is light, what we're looking for is how the light transmission through the umbrella and then the size. And it's great to have a nice big one, but you're not always going to have the space to fit it in. So I get a variety of different sizes, because a nice big one like this, 10 foot away, gives you, you know, about the same light as a much smaller one that's significantly closer. Once the size of the light as it appears to your subject equalizes, they equalize. So I got, I think, 8 new white shoot-through umbrellas from Impact, as well as some reversible ones, sorry, not reversible, convertible ones where you can take the black outside off. So here it's set up as a bounce, and you can take that off and use it as a shoot-through instead. So all of that. And then another thing that breaks is the mounts. So this is one that is actually kind of difficult to find the right balance. One that is strong and won't break after one fall, but doesn't weigh like a kilo. Some of them that are all metal, they're so heavy. So I think this is going to be a nice compromise. I got 2 different ones, again, Impact, to compare and see which is the better one for me, but they are composite metal except for the head, and they're not over the top heavy. So
they're
also,
way lighter than the ones you had before.
And it's nice in a way to have somewhat matching gear, so that if the students on Saturday morning learn on this gear, then Sunday afternoon they go and grab a different light stand and whatever, to not have it be a completely different style that they have to relearn is handy. What else do we have here? Oh, I also got a double bracket for when you want to have 2 flashes behind a modifier, like an umbrella or a softbox. So I am also taking along softboxes and reflectors and all kinds of stuff, but I have them already, so I didn't need to add them to the kit.
If you're coming to the workshop, obviously just bring your camera. You don't need to bring any light kits.
It's okay, they've been briefed. Also, new snoot for flash. So then flash goes in, snoot at the back. We've got some honeycomb grids and whatnot, all kinds of different accessories. So yes, it does really feel nice to know that we're going into these next workshops with a whole new kit of gear, but that's not to give you the impression that this $10,000 investment was for 2 workshops. Obviously, that's a bad business decision. I expect that this year is most of it, well, the flashes and stuff will probably be several workshops, but the stands, flashes, batteries, I'm talking about, you know, 3 to 5 years worth of heavy duty work. And that's an investment that's going to repay itself. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps us up. It's
Wait, we have one more box. Oh, what is this?
There's a lot more stuff, but I can't show it all. This one is a beauty dish for a small flash. So I take ring flashes and all kinds of stuff.
So small.
Oh, goodness me.
I'm so sorry.
It's not that small, and
Compared
it's
to-
functional.
Oh my god! Compared to like
Some of the
bigger-
ones we have
yeah.
in here, yes. Yes, it is smaller, but these are a hard light anyway, so that's not a big deal. And it's more about what's realistic to carry all around the world pack and what's going to survive the trip. So I think this will do the job.
Yay! It's so cute. Pew, pew. Sorry. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be so much fun. Oh, they're gonna love my weirdness. I think. I hope.
Yeah, well, at least that's one good thing. People will have a clear idea of our personality if they've watched enough videos. It's not like they're going to come and find you're a bookworm and I'm
yeah.
a serious person.
It's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
So let me know, folks, any questions you have about the gear, about the workshops, about your lighting thing. I mean, we've done an off-camera flash guide as well. If we're not coming to a city near you, you can check that out. It's nice, express, quick, easy, cheap. I'll pop a link to that below as well as all of this gear if you want to check any of it out. And now we need to pack and divvy stuff up for London. I'll see you guys soon.
Dibs on the light and small stuff.